You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Woo! We are here. We are here, folks. What do I mean by that? Well, a couple things. First of all, as I've been teasing for weeks, we are so close to the 9th. The 9th is the big day that we announce the big thing that I've been cooking up with Big Ear Pedals. And I tell you, I am so excited for this. I hate to be the person that like potentially overhyped something, but this turned out so well. This is one of the biggest. No, what am I talking about? This is absolutely, without a doubt, the biggest collab project that I have gotten to do. And I cannot wait to share this with you. So please stay tuned to all things Tone Mobbery on the 9th. Stay glued to the pedal internet. Make sure that you are following Big Ear Pedals because we have something so ridiculous and so cool. I cannot wait for you to see this. I'm like on pins and needles. I cannot wait. So I apologize. I apologize if I'm overhyping right now. I know that Grant and Karen feel the same way. And this is just, it's almost here. It's almost here. But let's not distract from something else epic that happened this week. This is one of the best podcast episodes I've done, especially the Patreon section, but in general. I'm talking to Big KO this week. And this dude, you know, I love it when somebody just radiates positivity. That's what this guy does. He radiates positivity. He is excited about what he's doing. He's excited to tell you about it. And he's excited to share his message with other people. The Patreon on this one is so good. I don't mean to, again, overhype things, but this was one of the most insightful Patreon episodes I think I've ever had. The main episode is tremendous. This is just a good week in Tone Mob land right now. So thank you all for being there for me, for supporting this thing, for all the help. I can't wait to show you what this week has in store. And I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Let's just dive right into it. Stop talking. Let's get to this one with my dude, Big KO. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Big KO. What's up, dude?
I'm chilling, man. Just hanging out, studio, writing riffs, writing songs, trying to rock the world.
I love it.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Dude, I'm stoked to have you. I was introduced to your stuff through the announcement that you're doing with Benson. Because Chris and I are good buddies, and
exciting stuff.
We've done a lot of stuff over the years. Actually, you can see the first amp I got from him right over my shoulder there. Well, no one else can see it, but you can see it. And so when I saw that, I was like, man, this is cool. And then I started looking at your music and what you've been up to, and I was like, I've got to talk to this guy on the podcast.
Oh man, well, thank you, man. I've been a follower of the show, and like you said, your friendship with Chris and those amazing Benson products you got, is part of what led me to Benson amps, man. They're just amazing. And I think Chris is probably, he's not going to like me to say it, but he's probably like the new Alexander Dumble or something. He's really, really,
he's
amazing. And his effects now are more widely popular than the amps because the amps are hard to get.
Yep, that's for sure. Yeah, he's definitely got better distribution on the pedals, and they sound amazing. And he's always like
amazing. And the amps are like life-changing.
They are. Like the first time I plugged into the Monarch, I was just like, I'm buying this, and this is back in we have had this weird kind of parallel trajectory that some of the listeners are familiar with, but like he was guest number 2 on the podcast.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I met him when he was fixing my amp in the back of Old Town Music here in Portland. And I saw the Monarch sitting up there. I was like, what's that? He's like, oh, that's my amp that I make. It's like, oh, like, what's it based on? And he's like, it's like not based on anything. And I plugged it in. I was like, I'll be back. Like,
yeah, that's what's unique about his stuff, that they have a unique voicing. It's different than like Marshall or Fender. Like each model has like a unique voicing, and at the same time, like they're great. Everyone wants platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're great platforms, man. But what I found is when I just plugged into the Chimera, just my guitar into the amp, it was like, the way the notes boomed. And then also like the particular amp he sent me, it had 4 10s in it. And, I don't think that a 4x10 was ever available from Benson. It was like kind of like a prototype amp that he had in the shop. The only thing that he could send me because, he had nothing. And a lot of amps are on the road, and, people will start the tour again. So I was super thankful that he was able to get me out, anything. And just happened to send me a 4x10. And it just had a focused sound because of that was unique than any combo that I've played. It sounded like had the punch of a 4x12, but just more focused with those 10-inch speakers. So that's what we decided to kind of go with my custom collaboration amp.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see it when that thing drops. That's
I'm excited to see it too. It's like a baby waiting to drop. I'm like a dad pacing in the waiting room, waiting for it. But I've been getting some pics, and I think I sent you a pic of the panel last week.
Yeah.
It once it starts to take real form, it's like super, super exciting. I can't believe it's happening. And I'm super like honored and blessed to be working with Chris and Benson Amps.
Dude, I've been in the exact same spot where you are, where with when the Vincent was developed, he was sending me faceplate shots and stuff, and I'm just like, ooh! I remember walking around in New York City, like talking on the phone with him, and we kind of had the concept together of how that amp works, and I know exactly what you're going through right now. It's like, come on, baby, this is
yeah. I mean, it's even crazier when it's an amp that you collaborated like with him on, and it's like a new model. I mean, I don't think it's going to be commercially available for a while, if it ever is. If you got juice with Benson, you can probably call them and get one made. But just to see it, a unique new logo on a Benson amp is like, what the, it's amazing. To me, it's truly, truly amazing. Like I said, he's a genius. I don't take any of this lightly, but I think it's something in the air up there in Portland, man, where it's just like my hero lives up there, Eddie Martinez, the guy that's responsible for me picking up guitar probably with his work with Run DMC, and you're up there, and Chris is up there, and it's just something in the creative air up in Oregon that I think is awesome. I'm looking to head up there soon. And I also work with another super company based in Portland called Campfire Audio. They make amazing IEMs. I don't know if a lot of your listeners are digging on IEMs yet, but IEMs have changed the way that I hear everything. So Campfire Audio is up there in Portland. Check them out. And I
know that.
When we're done with this, I'm going to link you guys in, have them send you a unit because I can guarantee that they'll probably replace what you have on your head right now. I'm not trying to plug shit. Oh, excuse me. I'm not trying to plug, but great products is what allow guitarists to make great music. So Campfire Audio, man, dope. And Benson Amp, dope. You guys, dope. Eddie Martinez, dope. All important. So it's amazing. You guys are fresh up there, really fresh.
Yeah, when you come up, you'll have to come by the Shred Shed and nerd out. We'll have a good time. It'll be fun.
Well, our plan is when the amp is done. Like I don't know what restrictions are going to allow, but Yeah, me and DMC coming up there with and linking up with Eddie, jamming with Chris.
Oh man,
in his little room, and then you're more invited. You're more than invited to join that all-star band. So it'll be me, you, Chris, DMC, and Eddie Martinez.
Oh man,
and five piece. Maybe we can take it on the road if it's funky.
Dude, that would be amazing. That'd be amazing.
No doubt.
Let's get into your story though.
Sure.
Like we can nerd out on gear all day. I know we could, and we probably will. But we need to introduce the listeners to you. And like, you and I talked on the phone yesterday, and kind of hinted at some very interesting background that I think a lot of people will enjoy hearing about. So like, what made you pick up the guitar and get to where you're playing with DMC? That's crazy.
Wow. Well, I've told the story over and over again, and I'll tell it again. When I was a kid growing up, it was like the end of disco and the advent of hip hop that was just starting around 79, 80. But something was happening culturally in New York, where I'm from, where punk was exploding. You had hip hop exploding. And then you had progressive DJs in New York. A gentleman by the name of Frankie Crocker, the chief rocker, was he was a DJ of the number one station in New York, WBLS, and he played a wide variety of music. So on his show, I heard everything from Queen, Another One Bites the Dust. So I'm talking about 79. I was about 3 or 4 years old. Queen, Another One Bites the Dust. Mountain, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, Miss You. Any rock record that had a groove or that Black people dug, Frankie Crocker played it. So I was exposed to a lot of rock music from that. So that leads us into like 1982, 1983. Buddy of mine, John Fiore, I'm still in contact with my man. He lives in Vegas. He brought Van Halen 1984 to school. The Van Halen album with the baby on the cover smoking a cigarette. And it was like he brought a nudie mag to school or something. For an 8-year-old kid, it was amazing. At that time, Van Halen was exploding with the 1984 album. Jump, Hot for Teacher was very, very popular videos. And as an 8-year-old, you're parked in front of MTV, and it's just amazing. So my friend John brought this tape to school. I brought it home, and that was my first rock tape. Now, that same year, Run DMC was the first hip-hop group to get a video played on MTV for their amazing, groundbreaking record, Rock Box.
Yep.
And that changed everything for me because, I was familiar and loved the guitar, the sound of the guitar, because it was starting to be prevalent in all music in the 80s. R&B music had soaring guitar solos. Pop tunes had soaring guitar solos. I mean, like everyone from like Patti LaBelle to like Quiet Riot. I mean, it was a guitar woven through all that 80s music. So Run DMC with Rock Box exploding on MTV as a kid. I loved that sound because Run DMC looked like the guys that was right outside my window. And they redefined what a rock star meant to kids that looked like me. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to worry about having, big hair or spandex, whatever. My heroes looked just like me. So therefore, I really assimilated to that. Sitting in front of TV, waiting for Run DMC video to come on once or twice a day, I was exposed to everything else that MTV was offering at that time. More Van Halen, again, Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister. Every band that broke big in 83, 84 because of Bon Jovi with Runaway. All of those songs, because I was waiting for Run DMC and Prince and Michael Jackson that year, I became a fan of rock music. Big fan. But then also Run DMC sounded just like the rock music that I was hearing along with their video. So it was one sound. And as a result, that sound started to unite people, where I started going to school. And, the white kids that I hung out with in school all of a sudden were wearing Adidas, like, yo, what's up? So it was a beautiful time where music and culture just merged. And I was a kid of that era. And, a couple years later, I picked. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And mine's on top of my pedal board too. Except mine has the Hancock on it though. So like I said, I was a kid who grew up idolizing Run DMC and that whole sound. And now, like, all over my room, it looks like a Run DMC merchandise store, because I have the honor of playing and producing for DMC. So like I said, it was the 80s sound, the MTV era, and just being the right age at that time when everything just exploded. That's what really got me on the road to guitar.
Mm-hmm. So for the listeners who are just audio only, he said the white kids started wearing Adidas, and I held up my Superstars that I'm wearing right now because, I wear Adidas all the time, and DMC is a large part of why that is. So,
yeah, it's amazing. Look, you asked me like, how did I wind up, the trajectory? Like, this is what I want everyone to understand. Everyone that plays guitar, whether you're in your room doing it, or you're an established artist, or you're a former classic artist that, is about to make a comeback. No matter what stage you are, just play hard. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't judge yourself by what you see on the internet, or you can't judge your skill level by what you see others do. Your journey is individual to yourself. It's just like tone. You can't really always listen to what everyone thinks, what they think is great or whatever. It's great to take note of that, but be an individual. But when you're in your room, play as hard as you can, because you never know who's watching, and you never know where you may end up. There's tons of guitarists on Instagram that has quadruple the following that I have. And if you're a guitarist, you judge yourself based on others' following, you're going to constantly be hurt. Judge yourself on the music that you do and the music that you play. Because, those that have triple the following don't have the credentials that I have. They don't have these things shining on the wall behind me. They don't have the great connection with a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer the way I have. Mm-hmm. So don't be concerned with views and likes. Just concern yourself with playing as hard as you can and loving and loving the instrument. Because sometimes you try so hard to succeed, and you're so frustrated with not reaching a certain plateau that you forget the love that you had for it. Right. And that even goes with content creators who may have hundreds of thousands of followers. But now there's a pressure to get up and make content every day. I'm sure you can relate. You know what I'm saying? So and sometimes when you have to conduct meetings or on Zooms and interviews and constantly setting up to record daily, that's a job as well. And you may lose your love for it as well. So someone with 150,000 followers may be having a miserable time. So judge your own trajectory, and just when you're in your room, play as hard as you can, because you never know who may be watching. In my case, Gibson was watching, Chris Benson was watching, DMC was watching, individuals like yourself was watching, Ernie Ball was watching. So yeah, I'm in a very, very blessed position. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned something on the phone yesterday that I kind of wanted to dig into, because it's an experience that I don't have, where you mentioned, growing up in the neighborhood you grew up in and liking rock music was kind of not really the thing, right? And you were talking about the transition from boom boxes to headphones and how, that
changed my life. And it's crazy because the shirt I have on, Kiss Asylum. That was a life-changing album for me. It had Tears Are Falling on it, Who Wants to Be Lonely, Up All Night, King of the Mountain. It was like the first album where their new guitarist, Bruce Kulick, got a chance to burn. The videos were all over MTV, and it was just, and the songs also had a unique groove to them that I didn't understand until later on. I found out that the guy who wrote all those records and produced those records and played bass on those records was a black dude, Gene Bouvier, Paul Stanley's homeboy. He was a writer. I'm like, okay, so that's why those songs almost feel like R&B. Like, and Paul Stanley, amazing vocally. Now, back to what you said about being a black kid growing up in 80s New York when everyone's playing booming, hip hop beats through boom boxes. I was doing the same thing. I love hip hop as well. You could not escape it. It was who I was. But at the same time, based on what we talked about before, I loved rock music. But it's not like I was going to roll around Inwood, New York, banging Kiss out my boombox. So around, 85, 86, the Walkmans dropped in price. And the Christmas of 86, I got a bike and I got a Walkman. And the first cassette I got with my Walkman was Run DMC, Raising Hell.
Nice. Yeah.
So as a 11-year-old kid, man, I put that in the headphones, hopped on my bike and just took off into the world of music but you're right. It was a tough thing, but the advent of headphones allowed me to listen to the music I wanted to listen to, develop as a person without having to, constantly defend myself and fight for the kind of music I love. But at the same time, I did have to fight at certain times at first, because if somebody comes up to you and is like, yo, dude, what are you listening to? And you're like, Kiss. And, it's like, what? Oh, that's some white boy stuff. Yeah, we're going to fight. and I did fight. I punched cats in the face for what I liked and for what I believed in back then. And sometimes it only takes one time to stand up for yourself, as they always say. And then it's a different story. So yeah, I mean, it for Black kids growing up in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure now it's tough to dig a music to where you don't see yourself in the scene. And then you also have to explain it to your own people, like why you like it. But you know what? I tell you, the greatest thing about hip hop music is I learned so much about rock music from being a hip hop guy, digging in those crates, looking for samples, really opened up my musical palette in a way that I don't think would have happened if I wasn't a hip hop guy. Yeah. I'm digging, I'm finding Pink Floyd, I'm finding, Mountain, I'm finding 10cc, Sabbath, all of these bands, along with the funk and soul stuff that we use is really what shaped me. Like, it made me really a well-rounded guitar player because I'm able to play and groove on any style. But, my secret weapon is rock. Because, when I step in a room, and it's funny because, I sent you the video yesterday, and people still don't believe they think it's smoke and mirrors. like somehow it's a plug-in that's playing or something, because, hip hop music has the unfortunate and false reputation of not being musical. It is. It's super musical, and there's super talented musicians in it. But you have to get out there and prove to people that you can rip. And it's funny, being a Black dude and being a guitar player, I'm all for that. I'm a gunslinger. I love when you hear stories about Buddy Guy back in the day, and like, look, back in the day in Chicago, the Chicago bluesmen, you just couldn't come to town and say that you were the baddest bluesman.
Right.
Like how these cats on the internet do now,
Yep.
I have 100,000 followers. I'm the baddest guitarist.
You're like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, like, Buddy Guy and those dudes might show up at their show. Like, and it might be on the gunslinger mentality. Mm-hmm. And that also comes from me being a hip hop guy, being a hip hop DJ. I was a battle DJ to where I really wasn't rocking parties. It's like we were getting up on stage, which helped me be a guitarist as well. Mm-hmm. Getting up on stage and competing against one another. So I totally have a gunslinger mentality. And that's why me and DMC are like going out on the road in a couple months. And honestly, I'm going to hop up on some stages. Yeah. And it's going to be uncomfortable for some cats. It's all love. It's all music. But I feel like I have to be a gunslinger because, you know, I'm sure there's going to be people on your podcast and people that are like, who is this guy? Why? You know, why is he down with Gibson? Like sometimes it's not enough that you tell them that I rock with a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame group and I produce for a rock. They still want to see it. And I'm the type of cat, if you want to see it, I'm going to show you. But yeah, it's fun, man. It's musical. And I love the, being a kid that had to like defend my musical choices. It just makes you tougher. It makes you a better guitar player. Mm-hmm. Again, I have a children's book, honestly, coming out in a couple months, but it'll be finished in a couple of weeks, called Kid with the Rock Guitar. Yeah. And if you listen to me and Darryl's new song, Ghetto Metal, it's all about my story as a young kid playing guitar. Mm-hmm. And it's told in like the third person to where the first line he says, I met a little black kid with a rock guitar. He said, DMC, I know who you are. Because like when I got my guitar, the first guitar riff I learned was Run DMC, King of Rock. Mm-hmm. It's crazy to now, you know, to wake up from text from a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, especially someone who you grew up admiring their music so much, and they meant so much to so many people culturally. Mm-hmm. Run DMC, like you said, you rock Adidas. Your mom can rock Adidas and feel cool. And, you know, Adidas were around way before Run DMC, but they made it cool and just a universal symbol of just unity and dopeness, to where when I come to Portland and we jam together, like you'll see there's not a pretension about DMC at all. I liken DMC to the Black Beatles, if I had to compare them to anyone in terms of impact and what they meant to African Americans. So that's the equivalent. So the work to DMC is kind of like the equivalent of waking up and kind of like working with Paul and John, like combined. Like it can be so iconic, and at times it can be overwhelming. So that's why, you know, it's important. I stress and I say, just go to your room, let it all out, mm-hmm. Let the stress of the world go, and play. Yep. Because at the end of the day, that's what a musician and being a guitarist and being a part of the Tone Mob is about. That's playing. Right. That's right.
So, you know, it's an interesting world that we've kind of found ourselves in these days, you know, for all of the problems that people cite with the music industry and all of the issues that, you know, artists have to deal with. One thing I think that is really a positive thing is that these lines that used to exist, even when I was a kid, are kind of going away, you know, like there's.
Sure. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 33. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when I was a kid, you know, it was kind of weird to see, even in like, I was really into punk. So even seeing mm-hmm. like a metal band playing with a punk band was kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. That they're here, you know? And there was this division. And these days I just feel like that's completely gone. Like it's nothing for, you know, a rapper to open up for a rocker and vice versa.
Yeah,
all the time. And then the genres are blending together in a way which Run DMC started, honestly. And so it's this weird world where like, it's almost hard for me to imagine. After we talked yesterday, I was reminded of a story that you should talk to Darryl about if you haven't already, because I'd love to know if this is accurate, is that the Clash, if I remember the story correctly, the Clash brought Run DMC to open up for them at their like one of their first U.S. states, and the crowd was not having it. Like they were not.
Yeah, I've heard that story. Like I'll definitely ask him Yeah, but there was certainly a lot of resistance. A good story I have, he just recently told me, was Live Aid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, look, these cats rock at Live Aid. Everyone talks about Queen, the Zeppelin breakdown at Live Aid, which I don't even think, I think Zeppelin was dope at Live Aid, but Run DMC rocked Live Aid with 2 turntables and a microphone.
Right.
And the sun was warping the record. So only DJs know this. So it was warping. And then they came out and said they did King of Rock, where DMC comes out and he's like, I'm the king of rock. There is not 50, 100,000 people in Philadelphia. So it was mind blowing. He told me that when he got there, Bob Geldof really wasn't keen on Run DMC performing. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you've heard a lot of things about Bob Geldof. He's an amazing man. He put together a Live Aid. Didn't want Run DMC to perform. Why? Oh, if Middle America see these 3 guys come on stage, people are going to turn their television off and people won't donate. That was kind of mind blowing for me. Wow. Like these behind the scenes stories that make me just shake my head. Right. So if you watch the Live Aid broadcast, that was on MTV. I was a kid that got up at 7 a.m. to watch the broadcast because I think Run DMC performed at like 10 a.m. because it was simulcast in London. Mm-hmm. They played 10 to 15 seconds of King of Rock. And then the correspondent was like, we're going to go live to London with Black Sabbath. Oh, geez. cut the performance off. I was like, holy crap. But what the crowd saw that day and what you can see now on YouTube, the whole performance, Run DMC, it was a cultural shift. It was like a bomb hit the stadium that day, a positive cultural bomb that the same stage that, Freddie Mercury rocked on or whatever, Run DMC came out and rocked on. But the funny story is Bob Geldof did not want Run DMC to go on because they felt it would, tank the donations. But Bill Graham, the legendary Bill Graham from Fillmore East, stood up for Run DMC because they were, at that time, Bill Graham was booking Run DMC tour in the U.S. Right. And Bill Graham was like, look, these guys are the new rock stars. They're the same, this music is the same thing that punk was 6-7 years ago. It's the same thing that, Elvis or the Beatles was 30 years ago. And if you don't let them go on, the rest of my bands that are going to go on, I'm pulling them. Bob Geldof changed his tune quick. Run DMC went on. The rest is history. But I thought that was just like he told me that story. I'm like, yeah, I got to go out to my car for a second. I went out to my car, was like, what did I just hear? Right. And then right before he started the story, because it was like an intermission with the band, like when we were shooting the video, DMC was like, I was with Paul McCartney 2 weeks ago. Like the whole room just stopped. Like what? He just casually was like, I was with Paul McCartney 2 weeks ago. He was doing an interview for, greatest musical icons or something. I don't know who knows, but it's mind-boggling. But yeah, the resistance from people is going to be there, man. But look, no one should trip on that. Music is for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. To all the African American Black guitarists out there. Love all genres of music. If you love heavy metal, that's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, love that music, but don't kill yourself to be accepted by a scene. It's okay to love a music and not be a part of the scene. You know what I mean? I think that's where a lot of young people get caught up because young people want to be a part of something, especially young people who feel alienated in life and things of that nature. So again, it goes back to be yourself, but don't feel bad if you don't feel part or accepted to a scene. It's okay. You can still love heavy metal music, heavy metal bands, And alternatively, it's great for any kind of people who like any kind of music. But you don't have to feel like you're being accepted to a scene. That was something that I had to get over, because culturally at that time in the late 80s, it was tough, because there was absolutely, when I watched Headbangers Ball back in the day, and when I was a kid, I used to watch Yo MTV Raps, take a break in between, and then Headbangers Ball would come on like an hour later.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a marvelous time to where all this music is just, on a Saturday night, you can just hang out and be exposed to everything.
Yeah.
And it was just a marvelous time. But during that time, like the whole 3 or 4 years, there was not one black band that I saw, or anyone that looked like me. So when you're 12 and 13 and you're growing up, you want to kind of feel like you're a part of something. But like I said, culturally things were happening, and a lot of people don't know that Anthrax was managed by Rush Management.
Right.
Those who don't know who Rush Management is Russell Simmons, and they managed Run DMC, and Russell Simmons had Def Jam, the label.
You may have heard
Slayer was on Def Jam.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Rick Rubin, who also produced Run DMC's amazing breakthrough Raising Hell, produced Slayer's Raising Hell the same year, the next year. So, like I said, although there was walls up back then, it really wasn't. Those walls were starting to tumble, like you said.
Yeah.
Because I saw an Anthrax video with my dude Scott Ian. Now, years later, they went on to do Bring the Noise with Public Enemy remix. Mm-hmm. But way before that, Anthrax had a song called I'm the Man. And it was a rap song. And right. In the video, Scott Ian had a Public Enemy t-shirt on. It was 1987.
Right.
Public Enemy's first album had just came out. No one knew who Public Enemy was. But again, those walls were already broken down behind the scenes. Anthrax was managed by Rush Management. So was Slayer. So was Run DMC. So was the Beastie Boys. So those walls were being broken down. And what Run DMC did, mashing the genres together with Walk This Way, was the Big Bang. And honestly, like, to relate comic books and stuff to it, if that was the Big Bang, then I'm a mutant, because I was affected by that Big Bang. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, too, didn't somebody from Slayer play on a Run DMC record, play a solo or something? I can't remember if that's accurate or not, but
yeah, absolutely. Slayer redid Public Enemy. Yeah, well, actually, the history is kind of crazy, because Kerry King played the guitar solo on the Beastie Boys' No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
That's right. That's right.
So that was amazing. And then Public Enemy redid Slayer's Angel of Death on It Takes a Nation to Millions to Hold Us Back. So if you was a kid and you were listening and you knew what was up, all of that stuff, was right under your nose. And, again, it took certain walls to break down for everyone to openly enjoy this music. But me and D talk about this all the time. Eventually it happened, and it's amazing. It really feels amazing.
Yeah. So when you first met Darryl, how did he find you? What was that meeting like? Because he was such a big inspiration, like that had to have been.
Sure. This was the early days of social media, probably like around 2011, to where it wasn't so crazy. A lot of entertainers were just starting their social media pages, and it was a situation where my former manager was helping Darryl start his comic book company. And so I just reached out to D like, hey, I was managed by such and such. It's because of you that I play guitar. And I'm like, yo, I'd be a fool if I didn't send you some tracks that I have. And being the accessible, cool, like honestly, this is the most accessible, I don't know about accessible, but the most coolest, down-to-earth rock and roll Hall of Famer you're ever going to meet. If you talk to anyone about DMC, he's just an amazing guy. It's all about the children, spreading love and spreading happiness. And that's what Run DMC music was always about.
Totally.
So I shot him over, like, you know, I shot him over tracks that I knew that if he heard them, it was going to be a rap, a proverbial rap.
Mm-hmm.
So I shot him over some real heavy guitar-oriented stuff on like a early Sunday morning. I'll never forget it. It could have been Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day. Early Sunday morning, about 6 a.m, shot him the email with the tracks and then went back to sleep. About 2 hours later, I woke up to like 5 emails from him. Like, yo, what the hell is this? This is the heaviest, hardest. Like, these riffs are crazy because it wasn't hip hop beats with just guitar over it. They were real rock tracks. Yeah. Because at that time I was rocking with I had just met my drummer Ephraim, and I was laying a lot of band tracks in the live room. So they had a heavy, hard sound that I think really surprised him. He was like, yo, who are you and where are you from? So I just kind of quickly broke down my background, some of the stuff I had produced before him, because, I had prior to working with Darryl, I had produced for 50 Cent, Jim Jones, a lot of hip hop guys. Al Petrelli from Megadeth was my guitar teacher. Oh, wow. Back in New York. So after I had done a bunch of hip hop stuff, I kind of took a break so I could just really become the best guitarist I could be. And that point is when I met Darryl. So it was a perfect opportunity. So I sent him all these heavy tracks, and he was like, yo, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to the studio today. I'm like, what in the holy hell just happened? Literally, this is 10 a.m. I'm like, okay, that's awesome, but I don't think he's going to go to studios. It's Memorial Day Sunday. By 12 o'clock that Sunday, he had finished the track and sent me everything, the Pro Tools files with his vocals and everything to do with the track back within one afternoon. So within one afternoon, we recorded our first song. So when he sends me the files back and I throw them in Pro Tools, it's like, and then you solo the instruments and you solo his voice. And it's the voice of the king of rock, like one of the greatest voices in music. It is just so distinctive and iconic to hear him performing over my tracks, over riffs that I wrote in my room. It was a really mind-boggling moment. But then you can't get too caught up in that, right? Because I've seen a lot of producers and artists that work with him that get caught up in that, and they're not able to make new music. So I had to quickly snap out of it, like, all right, this is dope, but let me try to finish the song and make it really dope. So that's what I concentrate on doing. And as a result, he was really so impressed with how quick I mixed the track and got it back that I sent him quickly another one. Now, this track was a more hip hop based track. And I just wanted to show him that, look, I'm really trying to perfect both. And I've tried to perfect both. And then I hit him with that, and it was the same situation. Yo, this is amazing. And those two records became our first single, Hellraisers / None Higher, which came out in 2015. That's incredible. So, like I said, those records happened in the afternoon. And then, sometimes in your life, the riffs go from just riffs and ideas to this very quickly. And you have to be able to be professional enough to get the job done, not get starstruck, but deliver. Because if I didn't deliver on that record, we never would have gotten to Ghetto Metal. Now, what me and DMC do, the way he likes to describe it, is like, we're like Slash and Miles Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell him, like, yo, I'm not Slash, dude. Like, I'm not iconic. He was like, no, like the principle of the guitarist and like the vocalist that can come together. You know, they're known for other projects, but come together every year to make a banger. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah, we could be that. And I totally dig it. So if you notice in the video for Ghetto Metal, it's like he's really propping me up on some Guitar Hero stuff. And I really love him for that. But it really means a lot to rock side by side with him. Like in that video.
Yeah.
It's like we're bumping up against it. It's honestly like we wanted to capture the fun and the feeling of Van Halen and the bands that he and I both love, because DMC is a tremendous rock fan. And honestly, the collaborations that he has with some of the giants of rock is really amazing. Like this year, some of the stuff that he has coming out and some of the stuff that I'm working on now for him is the collaborations are really amazing. I can't wait for all the fans of hard rock and metal and hip hop to dig some of the stuff we're doing. It's really, really going to be dope, man.
Yeah, dude. This has been so interesting to hear about, because, you know, it's just like one of these things that I realized from doing this show. Like, I've been very gear focused. Everything I have ever done has been about the gear and like what pedals you're using and all that.
Man, we didn't even really talk about pedals.
We didn't even get into that yet. We got time. We'll be okay. Right. I wanted to. Okay. That's why I said it's a show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes, because it used to be just like, I thought it was going to be very dry, like almost like rig rundown type interviews, and I quickly realized like, that's already been done. Like people are already doing that, and it's not very conducive to audio only, you know, which this was primarily for a long time, and. And so I realized just the conversations are what people are here for. They just want to hear us talk about things that we're passionate about. But what was really eye-opening for me, and I didn't actually start putting into action until 2021, was I got to interview some of my musical heroes, you know, people I've been listening to for years. And I realized, you know, I've said this on a few episodes where I kind of put them on this pedestal, you know, in my mind, like they're more talented than me and they're better than me. And in a lot of ways, you know, everyone has their unique talents and skills. And so in some ways that's true. But through meeting them and talking to them and having more and more conversations, I realized, well, they might be better at me than, you know, at certain specific things, but I can make music. Like, it doesn't have to be all overdrive pedal demos. It doesn't have to be all just like, here's what this sounds like, dirt, dirt, dirt. I can just make music to make music. And I'm finally doing that in 2021. And it's like all I want to do now is just, I make stuff every night, and it's weird and it's crazy and it makes no sense half the time, but it's a therapeutic process for me. You know what?
It sounds like you found the love again. And that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Like, sometimes you get so caught up in the podcast and doing this and feeling like, you know, if you don't review the new Strymon pedal, like, then someone else is going to beat you. It's like that's important too, but the most important thing is getting your hands on the guitar and like playing. And again, to go back to Darryl, like he told me the pandemic was very important for our music, because he's a super busy guy. When I say super busy, he can be anywhere doing like a Rock World Hall of Fame induction or speaking at a kid's school. But pandemic forced all of us to slow down. And it really forced my butt to get back in the studio. And not even so much back in the studio, it just gave me more time to play.
Yeah.
And as a result, you know, I started playing things and playing riffs and melodies that I hadn't thought about since I was a kid, you know, and that's what brought about Ghetto Metal, because it kind of allowed me to reset and go back to a simpler time. And, you know, I tell you, Kramer just sent me a Beretta. I might pull it out later. But it's a Beretta with a Floyd Rose. I haven't played a Floyd Rose in like a really long time. And it's just so fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you forget about this fun stuff you love because, you're trying to keep up with these Les Paul guys. And you know what I'm saying? Like, everything is, you know, if it's not a 59 reissue, or if it's not, you know, whatever it is, then, you know, You just got to get back to like doing your thing and just grooving and just like playing like what you love, man. And like wherever that is, find your safe space. And you don't need to do it for the internet.
No.
You know, I mean, honestly, like I don't have the time or the bandwidth to post every day. Like I see a lot of guitarists that are super talented, but I think their biggest talent is their ability to post every day. You know what I'm saying? Having the bandwidth. I can't do that. Like I not only am I working for full time for DMC, which is that anytime we could be going on the road for our single or his single or something that we're doing, I produce for other artists too. Like my next record, as soon as we finish recording it, is with Val B. King, BB King's granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
And that's just a super heavy blues record. So I jump from genre to genre. I don't have time to like, you know, post my newest licks like the way I've seen some of these guitarists rise to fame. And again, like I said, if you judge yourself by what you see others doing, whether it's in your musical career or in your life, you're going to have problems. So being an older cat, I want to talk to all the young people out there. You know what I'm saying? Believe in yourself always. That's the toughest thing to do as a young person. I have children that are you know, in their late teens, early 20s, and you know, belief in yourself is important. I try to stress to them, like, get out of virtual land. Sometimes be alert of your surroundings and be aware of what you love. Music is the only art form that you can feel, but you can't touch it.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're a musician, then you can't touch it in a way. You can't manipulate it. You can't touch it. So musicians have tremendous power, whether you're a beginner or intermediate, pro level, like I am, a producer or whatever. The music that you play has a tremendous amount of power for yourself. It doesn't have to always be for someone. You know, play chords that make you happy. You know, and also, and I want to say this to people who maybe listen to one genre of music, explore different genres and don't feel corny if you do. Like one thing I always ask, like my metal friends and my white friends and my metal friends, like, what do y'all get sexy to? Like when it's time to hang out, you know, like with a chick, like what do you play?
Oh, Rain and Blood by Slayer. Yeah. Yeah.
That's my point. Like at a certain point, it's like there has to be a balance. Mm-hmm. It just can't be all heavy music. Like I've learned that in my life, where I went on stretches where I just listened to the hardest, heaviest stuff. But then when I listen to something that's like Motown, it's like, oh my goodness, it's like a release.
Oh man.
Because of the dynamics in certain kinds of music. So I always ask my metal friends and my rock friends, like, what do you groove? Like, what do you groove to, dude? Like when it's time to set the mood, like what do you groove to?
Honestly, this might sound weird. I don't, nothing. Silent.
A lot of,
yeah.
It doesn't sound weird because like I said, I talked to a lot of my friends about it and they all have said the same thing. Look, that honestly, like, dude, like that's.
I wonder if that's a cultural thing.
I don't want to say it is, but yeah, I've talked to a lot of my white friends, a lot of rock cats, because we're just super close friends. I'm like, yo, what do you guys get sexy to? What do you guys groove to? And most of them have said, like nothing. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, when it's time to set the mood musically, like say, like what would you play for a girl on your first date?
Yeah. So that like if I'm thinking about this, because I listen to a lot of heavy stuff as we talked about, and if we were like just gonna hang out, we were just chilling, and I wanted to put on a record, legit, I would probably start with Sam Cooke, legit.
Oh, okay. I mean, like that's what I'm talking about.
That's
like
one of my favorite. Like when I'm like I've been listening to nothing but hardcore for like 3 weeks, and I put on Sam Cooke, And I'm like, listen to this guy.
Right. So like I said, so Sam Cooke is your dynamic music.
I feel like if you don't like Sam Cooke, then you're not going to like anything. You know?
my point in asking you, and why I love to ask everyone, is that dynamics in music is what makes the best songs, going from soft and beautiful to heavy. And all your favorite heavy songs, whether it's Metallica, Megadeth, it starts with their greatest songs start with clean, and then goes to crushingly heavy.
Thing. The dynamic was quiet, loud, back and forth. That was like their whole.
Absolutely. So, being a musician is the same thing. And so that's why I always ask cats, like, in your quiet time, it doesn't have to necessarily be, romantic or whatever, but in your quiet time, when you want to chill, when you need something, because it's important to replenish your soul.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that's the only reason why I can't listen to heavy music 100% of the time.
Well,
because
for me, I listen to, when I put on vinyl, it's generally not heavy. I have a lot of heavy vinyl, but I don't listen to it nearly as much. When I put on vinyl, it's something Willie Nelson, Jennings, something.
But I think it's dope. Again, the reason why I asked you, I wanted to know what your dynamic music was. By you saying Sam Cooke and Willie Nelson and things of that nature, that's dynamic music. And I have a lot of dynamic music too. Like stuff that you would never think a cat like me is into. I'm not talking about rock stuff. I'm talking about like 80s Euro synth, like Bananarama, B-52s, Level 42, Human League, because I'm a producer. So, I have to really love a lot of genres, and it has to be just more than music. I have to be able to produce more than just music that I like. That's important. That's why I asked about what's your dynamic music, because I think it's important for guitarists, because every guitarist out there can be a producer right now. If you are in your home studio and you are making videos and stuff for your YouTube channel and you're recording your own backing track and you're playing the backing track, well, you're producing. So I think it's important to listen to multiple genres, because look, I'm here to tell people you may get a call one day, and you may get a call for someone outside your genre. Like, hey, I heard your guitar playing. Could you produce a funk tune for me? And you might be out your element if all you've listened to is a certain kind of music. So again, and I think it's easier for musicians as they get older to embrace certain kinds of stuff. Because, like, look, when I was a teenager and I was one music, I went from, hair metal to hip hop, and I didn't listen to any rock for like 5 years. Then as I got older, I started missing some of the stuff I used to listen to in my early teens. And then it got brought back into the rotation. And then it started my musical pot with dynamics and stuff. But what I find is that kids these days, or young people, is because there's so much in their phone, they don't expand their palette, because everything they need is right there, and they don't search for anything else, because everything that they love could be really, really accessible. So my point is, like, have dynamic music, because dynamic music is important. Because, a lot of you heavy musicians at one point, every musician might meet a significant other, and Rain and Blood, might not be a great choice on the first date.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to that point, and then we're getting close to the end, so I got to get into the classic questions before we wrap up. But to that point, is the music that I make is for myself is not anything like what I really listen to on a regular basis. I still like it, but it doesn't sound like what people think I would turn on. This is going to turn on some Knocked Loose or something, and that's true. And my music sounds absolutely nothing like that. So you take all these inputs, and when you sit down and just try to zone out, you don't know what's going to come out. you know?
Yep.
And I remember telling my wife when I got this one track done that kind of started the whole dominoes falling for me, just making stuff constantly. I said, I like this, but I don't know what to do with it. This isn't me. This isn't what I listen to. This is not part of my, my palette of colors that I know how to paint from. And she just said like, maybe it is though. And I was like,
sure.
Ding! I was like, oh
yeah, it's like a light bulb moment. That's very important. And that's something important to touch on. Like when I create now, I don't try to create for other art. I go in and I think of myself as the artist. Like, okay, what would Big KO rock over if I was doing an album? And then I start from there, because it's kind of hard to pull ideas from thin air. That's where a lot of musicians get frustrated. They come in and it's hard to pull stuff out of thin air. I like to go in with a plan. Like, okay, today I'm doing 80s hard rock and I want it to feel like 1987 and I want it to sound like 1987. Therefore, I'm going to limit myself to the effects that they had in 1987.
Oh, okay.
I find like segueing into the effects that we use and stuff. I'm going to let everybody on a tip on how I was able to capture the sound of on Ghetto Metal. Because a lot of people are like, yo, that sounds like a Def Leppard record, or it sounds like a...
Yeah.
Oh, that's because I'm a super fan of Mutt Lange, who is Def Leppard's producer. And I'm a super fan of Bob Rock, who was, Metallica's producer and Bon Jovi's producer. And Ted Templeton, who was Van Halen's producer, and Eddie Kramer, who produced Kiss, and et cetera, et cetera. I dug rock producers just as much as I dug hip hop producers like DJ Premier and Pete Rock. So I really studied them. So, back to what I was saying, if you want to make a record that sounds like 1987, put away your fuzz pedal that you got in 2017. So it's very fun for me. When I think about like an artist like Prince, all right, he made Purple Rain on a Lindrum machine.
Yeah.
Very limited sequencing, just guitars, a Lindrum, couple keyboards. Purple Rain. Same thing with Thriller or any huge album that you talk about. Like, there was very limited to what they had. The biggest albums in the world: Thriller, Hotel California, Hysteria by Def Leppard. It's like, so if you can easily recreate those sounds, if you take yourself back to that era, what was in everyone's studio, what was in Mutt Lange. It takes a little bit of research, but all the information is out there. Mm-hmm. What was in the rack in the studio? What board did they record off of? Okay, if they recorded off of a Neve or huge Neve, obviously we can't do that, but we have software that can that can clone that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was the standard reverb? Okay, Lexicon reverbs were in every studio. Okay, so that's the reverb we're going to use. What I had a chance to talk to Eddie Martinez about. We did a couple interviews together for the single, and he told me what the sound was that he got on Rockbox. It was just a Boss, yellow Boss DS1 into a Music Man amp. The sound that changed the world.
Wow.
So it's like sometimes I think that we, because we have so much at our fingertips, the choices overwhelm us. And it's like, if you have a crazy board, it's like you feel like you have to use all of it, and you really don't. You don't have to use any of it, or you might use one pedal out of the 25 that you have, or it. But to capture a sound of the era, use what they had in that era. Mm-hmm. Period. If you can get it to sound like Hysteria or Motley Crue, Theater of Pain, Girls, or Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz. I mean, it's commonly known what Randy Rhoads used on his board. It's commonly known, but if you want to create music that feels like music from that era that has the same impact, like, that's what me and DMC was able to do with Ghetto Metal. Like, everyone's like, yo, it sounds like classic 80s. Like, it sounds like a Lost Run DMC record, but at the same time, it sounds like, is that Pour Some Sugar on Me? Is that? Nah, what you hear is all the influences coming together. And then I'm also using with plugins and then some of the pedals that I got I'm using the stuff that they had in that era. So it sounds like classic 80s stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's sometimes we do. We get paralysis by analysis, you know, and that was me for a long time. In fact, like a part of the journey, and the listeners have heard the story before, but like part of it was like, I was like, I have all this gear and this wonderful space to record in. And demos are valuable because you want to know what things sound like before you buy them. But like I got all this stuff, and I always said like 14-year-old me would come in here and punch me right in the face for not making music. Like I could never even fathom that I would be
having the stuff that you have. Yeah. I mean, again, and it's crazy because, you know, up until about a year and a half ago, I had the basic funk set up because that's all I needed. Basic funk setup, wah pedal, into a clean, not a tube amp, because funk distortion is a little different. It's a sharper edge. Yeah. It's not really tube based. If you listen to Ernie Isley or Eddie Hazel, it's more of a sharper fuzz type bass. So, you know, wah pedal, fuzz, phaser, delay. That's the funk chain. But then, you know, when you start working with DMC, then I have to start creating some of those sounds on his records. So then I have to reach out to Eddie Martinez. Like, well, what was that on Rockbox? Oh, that was a yellow DS1. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that was that. And then I have to, you know, what's the sound on Walk This Way? Because we have to play Walk This Way at gigs. Okay, so Joe Perry. So it's a lot of matching that I had to do. So as a result, the pedal went from that little funk rig to what's behind me, which is honestly really getting ridiculous. Can you see it in the shot, dude?
I can see it, yeah. Yeah, I mean, preamp on there. Looks like the... I'm
going to go... Let's stand it up so it's kind of falling down. But and again, the reason why it's so raggedy is because I'm currently waiting on the IK Multimedia X Vibe and also the new Expandora fuzz that they have coming out.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into the effects. I'm super lucky, to be rocking with Benson. So the Benson preamp is there. But okay, so chain currently as of this morning because like we talked about like we talked about yesterday, it always changes, and then as soon as you think you have enough space, you don't. So right now it's guitar into wah, which is an electro harmonics cockfight plus wah. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm sure you're familiar with it, but to the listeners, super versatile wah pedal with a fuzz built in. And before I started getting all these fuzzes, the fuzz and the cockfight was really all I needed because it was like a big muff inside the wah pedal, man. It's really dope.
Yeah.
It's total EQ on it. You can, contour it. It has cry mode and talk mode. So it does a lot of really dope stuff. So guitar into wah pedal, and then it goes into the IK Multimedia Z-Tone buffer boost. So that, boost up my signal after the wah pedal, because like I told you yesterday, I had took my wah pedal off the board because I felt like it was sucking tone. Mm-hmm. And wah pedals will do that no matter how good they are. And then also as a funk player, I lean too much on my wah pedal because it's fun, it's funky, and I'm a funky guy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But so recently I put the wah pedal back on and I ran the buffer boost after it, and it's a world of difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So to listeners out there, everyone's gonna have their own method, but if you have a boost, try putting your boost after the wah. Have you found that to be good for you?
I've done that before.
Or do you go wah before the boost?
I've done both. I like the boost after the wah personally. Mm-hmm. But I'm also the world's worst wah player, so I rarely use it.
It just seems to me like with this particular rig, putting the boost after the wah, it was sounding really uncontrolled the other way around. So wah pedal into the IK Multimedia buffer boost, and that's giving me a nice clean buffer. And as well, if I need a boost, it gives me a super transparent boost. It's not really going to push the gain. It's just going to some of these fuzz pedals like a lot of signal going into them.
Yeah.
So that's what the boost after the wah's for. So after the Z-Tone buffer boost, we go into the IK Multimedia X Drive, and that's from the X series of pedals. Really, really amazing. Like the X Drive pedal for me has really eliminated almost every other drive pedal except the X Pandoras, just because they're just so dope. And a lot of people get them confused. They're not a multi-effects pedal, the IK Multimedia pedal.
Right.
They're multi-drive pedals. So you're going to get 62 drives, but it's not a multi-effector where you're going to get delay and all that.
Right.
You're going to get the drives themselves. So it's like having, if I was to have a Big Muff DS1, TR9, etc. All those drives are in the IK Multimedia X Drive, and it's so dope. Honestly, like, because I was trying to dial in the sounds from Run DMC Rockbox, I haven't even really gotten out of the Boss presets yet. It's just really so amazing. So it goes from the IK Multimedia X Drive into the X Pandora reissue fuzz.
Yeah.
And man, the X Pandora fuzz, when I tell you, look, I mean, like, as a funk guy, you play a lot of fuzzes. Fuzzes are popular. So what's it all about? Fuzz, fuzz, fuzz. If the listeners haven't checked out X Pandora or don't know the history about the X Pandora fuzz, I'm sure you can do a whole episode alone just on those pedals. Just really, really, really dope, amazing. It's a reissue of the one that came out in the 80s. And for those who don't know, like Billy Gibbons was a big X Pandora player. Like the sound, a lot of his sound was the X Pandora fuzz. Back in the day, he used to have a stage rig with 6 X Pandoras on them. And honestly, I don't want to let too much out the bag, but you're going to see me rocking with the Rev Billy G in the next couple months. Run DMC, Billy G, DMC, Billy G.
Wow.
So that's just X Pandora fuzz. And so the sound of ZZ Top and also play like Bootsy Collins used it. It's really amazing. X Pandora fuzz. We go out from the X Pandora fuzz into our friend Chris's preamp. I think everyone has one of these on their board right now. Honestly, it's like a halfway point for my board for me, because if I'm playing into a clean amp, or the Benson will kind of, if I need to play at lower volumes, the Benson will control my volume when it comes to like clean tones. So when I step off the drives, I click on the Benson preamp. And then that, along with the Benson amp, is like the clean tones.
Very cool.
So, I mean, and the Benson preamp is just absolutely amazing. I would tell everyone out there, everyone wants an amp in a box, but that might be the wrong term for this preamp. It's just, it just has a sag to it that just feels, I don't know. It's just more of that Benson magic, to where it sounds unlike any preamp. You can get it to sound like a fuzz or overdriven amp or clean amp. It's a really nice midway point for my board. From there, we go into the Electro Harmonics Small Stone. Again, if we're talking about funk tones, somewhere you're going to have a phaser. But I will be honest with you, this is about to come off as soon as I get the IK Multimedia X Vibe, which is their chorus pedal. So coming out of that, I'm gonna go into the IK Multimedia X Time, which I'm really, really lucky to have all of these IK Multimedia pedals, because they're hard to get right now. And but I've been an IK artist for about 10 years, and I really love Amplitude. Really big on a lot of records I do. And to have the tones.
Funny story about Amplitude for Patreon. You're going to like this one a lot. It's pretty.
Yeah. The tones that I get in Amplitude with the X pedals, I'm able to take that exact tone, take it on stage. Really groundbreaking. that means I don't have to try to match the tone that I get in the studio.
Right.
If I use IK multimedia stuff on the tracks, boom, the exact tone, take it out is right on my board. And for me, that was amazing. So the X time delay is just tremendous. Like, honestly, and I'm gonna make folks mad. I said it on one of these internet groups, and they tried to burn me. I'm like, yo, these pedals could be the Strymon killers.
Mm-hmm.
But people, again, it goes back to people getting caught up in a brand, which, Strymon is amazing. I love them. But again, it's one of those things that everyone has one and you feel like, oh, I need to get one too. And there's amazing products out there that, as one of the top reviewers in the business, if not the top reviewer and podcast, that there are amazing products all from a lot of companies that do exactly what some of those must-have pedals can do. So, the IK Multimedia X Space, their reverb pedal, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is the Big Sky Killer.
Wow.
It's not a coincidence that it's blue. It's not a coincidence that the size of it. And I'll tell you, I played both. I'm a pro player. I played the Big Sky live in front of 20,000 people. I played it in the studio. And I played this one live. This one does everything that the Big Sky can do for, I'm not going to say a third of the price. IK Multimedia, these are boutique pedals. They're pricey too. But I'm not going to say it's the Big Sky killer. It's the Big Sky alternative.
There you go.
Amazing pedal. Really dope. So look, I have 3 IK Multimedia X series pedals on it. The Benson preamp and the X Pandora fuzz. And soon, X Pandora is coming out with the Forbidden fuzz, which is going to be a dual channel fuzz. I think you might have, I have some info, some sneak behind the scenes info with you on that. I was trying to get my good friend Brad from X Pandora to join me today, but he's out of town. But I would like for you to chop it up with him because he's really done a great job of bringing X Pandora pedals back.
Absolutely.
So again, I'm probably going to have to double the size of this pedal because again, I also have an Electro Harmonic Super Ego.
Yeah.
That is kind of like at the end of this whole chain, just so I can freeze all of this if I need to and play over it. And then again, we have the old mainstays, the Memory Boy, but the Memory Boy is probably going to be the delay for my Moog keyboard. So that's not going to go on the board. But as you can see, man, effects and guitars, it's a never ending thing. Like, it changes. Last year I had 3 pedals and I could have swore that I would never need more. And then here we are, a year later, and the landscape of music is different and the landscape of what I need is different. And that's why, again, I'm going to tell guitarists, don't always look at what, your heroes have or what these guys have on their board. Do what works for you, my guys, and you will have a lot more gratification in your career and in your playing.
100%. I always say, if it sounds good, it is good. Doesn't matter what it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's just the end of the story right there. If you like it, then it's good. And I had somebody try to criticize me on that once, and I said, "Well, you're wrong, but okay."
Hey, more importantly, if it feels good to you.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you, again, going back to the guitar with the whammy, I'm trying to be a serious blues funk player and, just hitting a chord and dive bombing. I haven't did it since I was a teenager. I'm like, it's fun. Like, it made me feel good. Mm-hmm. Do what makes you feel, good inside, man, as a musician, as a guitar player. Because again, I think we're at a point where music can and will change the world because there's a lot that needs to be changing. Oh, also, before, I don't want to forget about this.
Okay.
Again, shout out to Chris Benson because one of the reasons why I really wanted to play Benson amps was his work with Celeste.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
she's amazing.
She's amazing, incredible talent, so amazingly beautiful and such a gifted guitar player. And when I saw her get her custom from Benson, I'm like, yo, it made me admire Benson as a company. I'm probably wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think Celeste probably be the first, Black woman with her own custom amp. That is just totally amazing to me, man. Like, that is dope. Like, I'm like, yo, for me, I became a fan of Benson amps right at that point. And it was like the way her amps looked and the way I knew that they sounded was amazing to me. Then it became a hunt. Okay, how do I get one? Which, served to be very difficult.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to bother Chris. Everyone in the music industry wants his amps. But I'm like, if I ever get a record that I feel that I gives me enough weight that I could reach out to him and make something happen, then I'm going to do it. And the minute I felt that I had one, and because DMC told me, like, yo, this could be the best record I've ever done in my career. And it stopped me in my tracks. I told him, don't say that to me. A Rock and Roll Hall of Famer told me that I just produced his best record. It really made me take like a week off and reevaluate what I'm doing moving forward. It meant a lot for me for him to say that. Mm-hmm. So once I got confirmation from DMC, I was able to reach out to Chris and be like, look, I have a really good record. I need a solid amp for touring. And he, I didn't expect anyone to get back to me from Benson, but he texted me himself. He's like, hey, this is Chris. I'm like, I didn't expect you to text me back. He's like, yeah, well, we're a small company.
Yeah.
Like I reached out and Chris Benson himself texted me back. Mm-hmm. So that just really started a great relationship. And I told him, I'm like, yo, for you to put your arm around Celeste and do a custom with her is amazing. And then to have it, a year later for the Rock Box amp to come out, I think Chris is amp makers and guitar companies and accessory companies really need to expand their artist palette. And I think they need to take a hint and take a tip from what Chris Benson is doing. I mean, like, he's opened his doors for all players. And as a result, Celeste is going to rock the world with her amp. I'm going to rock the world with my amp, as well as Joe Bonamassa, guys like you. Like, I'm very, very proud to be a part of the Benson family. But that his work with Celeste was really one of the reasons why I'm like, I really got to get with this guy. Plus the design of her amp, I'm like, yo, he can pull a custom amp off like no other, like materials that he used, particularly his covering material is amazing.
So the first time she came to his shop, I didn't know who she was. I wasn't familiar with her. And Chris messaged me. He's like, hey, you need to come to the shop today. I was like, why? What's going on? He's like, well, she's coming. And she explained, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not familiar with this lady, but if Chris says I need to come, I must need to come. And so I showed up and we had a great conversation, and Chris was like, busy running an amp shop. So like I got to talk to her for quite a while, and she's like, tell me about the Vincent. That's what she has. And I was like, well, I actually can tell you all about that amp. So this works out great. And she's like, well, where do you set it? And I was like, I set it like this, but honestly, it doesn't really matter where you set the controls on this. It just kind of works everywhere. And so I said how I normally set it, and she started playing, and she got done. And I said, doesn't sound like that when I play. I was like, wow,
she's amazing, man. Like, that some people are amazing guitarists, and then some people, you can tell that their spirit radiates through their guitar playing. And she's just one of those individuals, like, I would love to see everyone know about her. Like, I want to see her on covers of Guitar World and Guitar Player, because she's dang worthy, man. She's just really, really, really dope, man. And honestly, like, I hope, Chris feels proud of the artist roster that he's put together, man, because I can tell you this Rock Box amp, it's going to rock the world. That's why I called it the Rock Box, because when you work with an artist like DMC, I am rocking the world, man. And it's also some of the design choices. Can't really leak them yet, but I'm sure people will be seeing them soon. I don't know if Chris told you what the grill design was.
He told me today.
That is super, super, super so fire, man. People are gonna be like, yo. I mean, look, not everyone. Just like Celeste's amp, like to me, it's beautiful, but the amp is not for everyone. A lot of people will be like, I don't really like design choices, but again, if you like certain brands, and if you're a brand of the sneaker we was talking about before, then you're really going to dig this amp. It's super, super special, man. And honestly, I'm probably going to have to get Chris to make a couple so I can get them to guys like you and some of my other friends, man. But I can't believe it. Super dope, super dope.
Well, dude, this has been an amazing conversation. Let's dive into the classic questions before we head off into crazy storyland for Patreon. What do you say?
Got you.
Okay. All right. So the first one, I think you kind of just did this. So the first thing I usually like guests to do is like, hey, this is a time to shout out anybody you want to shout out, say hi to your grandma, like whatever you want to do, now's the time to do it. But I think you kind of just did that, unless there's anything else you want to shout out.
Yeah, I just, real quick, shout out to my manager, Fred Shire and Brandy Shire. They make a lot of things happen behind the scenes for me. Shout out to Ernie Ball Strings. Love them. Crazy supporter of what I do. Gibson Guitar. Shout out to Cesar. Super cool cat. Shout out to Jim DeCola. Al John Go. Everybody at Gibson Brands. Chris Benson. And just, really just shout out to, DMC and thank him for allowing me to rock with him. And just shout out to everyone who keeps me equipped. IK Multimedia to play. For every guitarist want trifecta of endorsements, right? Amp, guitar, strings. I cannot believe I'm sitting here with a Gibson on my lap. Just came back from Nashville 2 months ago and hung out with Jim DeCola, and he hooked this guitar up for me, right? So this is it's kind of crazy. I just segue crazy from shout outs, but we're giving shout outs. I have to talk about Jim DeCola. All right. Now look, this is the guitar that I played in the video and song Ghetto Metal with DMC. Mm-hmm. So I normally don't get attached to guitars because as a musician, they come and go. We know this. And you'll be heartbroken if you fall in love with a guitar that you might have to get rid of later on for whatever reason. So I never really was, that sentimental about a guitar. But this one was different, being that I played it on this record, whatever. So that being said, I thought a custom was my end game, a black custom, Les Paul custom. But after realizing the weight, because, whether you're an artist or not, everyone has to wait for guitars. Just like if you're an artist, and I don't want anyone to get it twisted. I had to wait for my Benson amp. I didn't jump the line. There's a lot of great people waiting for amps. And so sometimes you just have to wait. So I was rolling through Nashville with DMC, so I had gotten in touch with Jim DeCola, who was the head luthier at Gibson. I'm like, I'm coming through. Can I drop my guitar off and just, essentially have you hot rod it, like, change the parts, and kind of have it represent like all eras that I love from Gibson, and kind of have it, parts of it represent every Gibson I had. He is so amazing. He was taking notes of our email conversation. So when I got to Nashville, he had all the parts laid out, and a printout of my emails. I was blown away.
Wow.
Because again, if you judge yourself by what you see others do, you'd be heartbroken. And I used to see guitarists roll through Gibson and stand out in front and take the pictures and hang out with Cesar. And I'd be like, yeah, I really want that. I really want that to be me. I need to be there. So like actually having that happen was amazing. So I dropped it off with Jim, and he took my regular Les Paul custom, changed the cream hardware to black, changed the nickel hardware to chrome, tuners to chrome as well. He put this guitar represents all eras of Gibson. So it has the TP6 bridge on it, mm-hmm. from a BB King, ES. Yeah. It has the modern push-pull electronic, but the knobs are black like a 70s Les Paul. And you only saw TP6s in the late 70s because they didn't come out until late 70s. The Firebird loud tremolo cover that would be on a Firebird or a SG.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a the Gibson is doing the Gibson mod shop now, or the Gibson demo shop. Essentially, this guitar, I was able to go to Jim DeCola and do my own mod shop guitar. So that allowed me to not have to wait for months to get a custom or a made-to-measure guitar. I was able to take a guitar that had real sentimental value to me and just have it hot rodded. I can guarantee you, you're not going to see another Les Paul like this one, man. It is just... And to have it tuned up by the head luthier at Gibson, it plays like we all tinker with our guitars and we think that, we got them playing the way you need. But to have the guy who sends hundreds of these out the door a day, to have him set it up and set up the annotation. And then also the TP6 bridge eliminates all those Les Paul tuning problems that you have on the G string, I found for me.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, did I lose?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. So that was real important for me. So this guitar is dope. So got to shout out Gibson, but shout out Jim DeCola, Mark Agnesi, Al John Doe. Actually, we was in Nashville shooting icons for Gibson. In the future, Darryl will be on Gibson's Icon TV, for Gibson TV.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm headed to Nashville next week. So there we go. Look at that. All right. Here we go.
Actually, I'm sorry to cut you off one more time. When the amp is done, it's a strong possibility. I had talked to Chris about it. He said he's down. We're going to bring the amp to Nashville to do a rig rundown with John Bollinger.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
So, yeah. But that's gotta wait till the amp is done first. I don't want to jump the gun, but
nice. All right, okay. Here was the last two questions. First one's probably pretty easy, so we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll get to the controversial one. First one is, what is your favorite Boss pedal?
My favorite Boss pedal?
Mm-hmm.
There was a green PH3 phase shifter 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's the right model number, but it was the green one, the PH either 2 or 3.
Yep.
That pedal was dope. That Boss pedal was dope. Like I really wasn't a Boss, guy. But I like pedals that do something, unique. And that phase shifter that does the step up ladder, the step down ladder, you can really get some as a producer, you can get some super cool ambient tones with that green Boss phase shifter. So that was my favorite Boss pedal.
Perfect. All right, and here's the big one. This is the heavy hitter of the episode. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, that's easy. I'm from New York, man. So I'm going large pie, half cheese, half sausage.
Oh, I like
day. Mm-hmm. Half pie. I mean, the only reason why I go half sausage is because like my kids sometimes don't like sausage. But yeah, I'm from New York. Listen, you're my homie. I'm going to take you to Hollis, Queens, where Run DMC is from, and I'm going to take you up to a place called Jamaica Avenue in Queens, New York. Okay. Jamaica Avenue has a pizza shop called Margarita's Pizza. You can Google it when we get off. Best pizza in New York, best pizza you ever had, best pizza in Queens. It's amazing. You're my homeboy. Tone Mob Podcast. We're going to Queens. We're going to Hollis. You're going to put on your Adidas. We're going to walk this way. You're going to rock the world. We're going to get a slice at Margarita's. But my favorite slice would be a sausage slice.
All right.
If I had to get a whole pie, half sausage, half cheese, but I can go with whole sausage too.
Awesome. I love that. That's a great way to. I'm a New York pizza fan. I've been to New York a few times, and I didn't believe the hype. Admittedly, I was like, it's pizza. It's good everywhere. I went to New York and I was like, I was like super skeptical, and then I hit a few spots, and I was like, nope, I was wrong. I didn't know.
It's the water, and it's a lot of. I mean, like, look, the best spots are the spots that are in neighborhoods that people don't go in. So I'll take you there. You're good with me, brother.
All right. I like that.
Very, very, very safe.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No doubt.
All right. This is great. This is a great episode. Thank you so much for coming on.
Amazing episode. I had an amazing time. Like, I do a lot of interviews for this single. This had to be the most fun interview and podcast I've done in the last 2 months, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the Tone Mob podcast.
Thank you so much, dude. All right, everybody. For KO, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you have it, folks. There it is. I hope you enjoyed that one. I seriously did. And I'm not joking, folks. The bonus content for this week, you are not going to want to miss this. This is really, really, really good stuff. He had such good things to say that I think I've been trying to say in so many words, but he just hit the nail right on the head and just made the point so much more succinctly and clearly than I think I ever have. So if you'd like to support the show and get that extra content, please go to patreon.com/tonemob, or if you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, you can subscribe and you'll get those bonus episodes every week and you'll help keep this thing going. You'll get a ton of extra content. A lot of it is some of the very best stuff that's never been released publicly. And hopefully you can do that. If not, it's no sweat. I totally get it. But if you could share this with somebody that you think would enjoy it, that would mean everything. Unlike YouTube, podcasts still don't really have a fantastic algorithm, that pushes things into people's feeds. And it's much more organic and word of mouth versus maybe some other channels. And the only reason this exists at the level that it does is because you share this with people. So please share this with anybody you think that might enjoy it. Please get ready for Wednesday. This is going to be so insane. I'm so excited to share this with you. So many things going on that I'm excited about. So I'm excited that you're here. You know what? Thank you. Let me just throw that out there again. Thank you for choosing to spend time with me. Thank you for checking out all things Tone Mob. Make sure you check out Big KO. Make sure you check out Ghetto Metal. Make sure you check out everything that's cool. And everything that's cool has been on this podcast. Nothing that's dumb has ever been on this podcast other than the host. So don't you worry. You can check out any of our guest stuff and you will get a treat, I'm sure. Okay, without further ado, let's wrap this thing up and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.